Okay, it's May 5th. It's been about 6 weeks since the governor ordered the shelter in place order, which is amazing that it's only been that long. Feels like forever. But now we're talking about reopening. And as the state and our county here prepare to reopen for business, there's a lot of questions circling around the air about what this process might look like, what we can expect. So we wanted to have John Welch, Watauga County Commission Chair, with us here to help us wrap our mind around what this reopening might mean for citizens of Boone and what everything is gonna look like here soon. So thanks for joining us today, John.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
My first question is, I understand you're fresh out of a commissioner's meeting, so you've got a lot of brand new information, so I'm really glad to get you on right now. What is the date planned for reopening for the county now, and how is Watauga County planning for this?
Yeah, well, we had a pretty thorough conversation this morning at our county commission meeting. So basically, we're following a three-phase plan that follows Governor Cooper's opening plan. At this point, phase one will start without any direction from the governor. It'll start this Friday to run in line with the governor's reopening plan. You'll still have the prohibition on the short-term rentals. You'll still have all residents who are coming back from extended stays outside of the county will still be asked to quarantine for 14 days. At that point, some of the business restrictions that were in place from the state stay-at-home order will begin relaxing. I think folks tend to think that the county was in charge of some of the business restrictions. Those are all state. So the only county restrictions that we have currently are the short-term rental restrictions and the quarantine for county residents upon return to the county. So as we get more information from the governor, hopefully this afternoon, about what businesses will look like and when phase one actually starts, that's what we'll start seeing around Watauga County. As I'm sure most folks in the area know, we went a couple steps further than what the state did by instituting the 14-day quarantine and the ban on short-term rentals. Those will remain in effect until phase two of the reopening plan. So 2 weeks into phase two, then we'll start relaxing some of those restrictions and allowing people to open up at 50%.
So some of these businesses that were considered non-essential will begin to be able to open up here in town?
In a sense, yeah. And I know Governor Cooper and DHHS, the folks down in Raleigh, have issued their reopening plan. So that they have a pretty informative website with all COVID-19 related items that you can click onto that website and get all that information. So it details in phase one, phase two, phase three, what the relaxation of the restrictions look like.
Okay, so if you're a business here in town, are there certain steps required to reopen that you know of?
I don't know of any steps. I'm sure that there will be guidance from the CDC, Department of Health and Human Services in Raleigh, and our local health department. So if there are any businesses that have questions about reopening, I would reach out to those sources just to get some clarifications. I think there's a misconception that all of a sudden these businesses will just open up as if it was prior to this pandemic. A lot of our businesses, especially restaurants, are going to have to ramp up, and it's going to be a process for them to get back to where they were prior. But they're more than welcome to reach out to our local health department if they have any questions as far as reopening.
So it sounds like this is going to be limits on capacity, that type of thing.
Yeah. I think what you're seeing now, anything under 10 people in an area, I think that'll be relaxed to 50, and then eventually to 100. We may see capacity restrictions in restaurants. May still not be able to have in-person dining you may be able to outdoor dining, but there's some pretty good resources that folks can reach out to find out what those restrictions are, especially in the restaurants,
Yeah.
the food services. That's going to be a big change moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. And so, is there any speculation on what the short-term rental piece is going to look like once that does come back?
So the short-term rentals will be phased in. So 2 weeks after phase two opens, we'll start easing the restrictions on the short-term rentals. So basically, we'll look at short-term rentals, Airbnbs, bed and breakfast, and so on. They'll be asked to stay at 50% of capacity. And we also made a change today that if a single family is staying at a B&B, Airbnb, that they be counted as eligible to stay at that location. There was the way the wording was originally, it precluded single families of large number from renting short-term rentals. So 2 weeks after phase two begins, you'll start seeing an easing of the restriction for short-term rentals, and then the quarantine for Watauga County residents will completely go away.
Okay.
Once phase three begins is when short-term rentals will go back to 100% occupancy.
Gotcha.
One thing that came up today in the meeting, we've had a number of emails from campgrounds, and so we have asked our county manager to reach out to the National Park Association to see when they plan on opening up their campground that's here in Watauga County, so that their opening mirrors what we're going to do with campgrounds in Watauga County. So we don't want the Park Service to open earlier than our campgrounds in Watauga County not be able to open for another month. So we're going to mirror what the Park Service is going to do with that campground on the Parkway. Now, if we go into the short-term rental relaxation in phase two, we'll allow them to be a part of that if the National Park Service decides to open later than that piece.
So is there still no word on when the Parkway itself is going to open?
No, we haven't heard anything. I know Darren, our county manager, is going to reach out to the National Park Service and just give us more clarification. I think some folks would like to keep that in place so it becomes a pedestrian walkway. but no, we're trying to get some more clarifications from the federal government on that.
So anything else about the plan from the county on reopening, or does that cover most of it?
That covers most of it. It's going to be an ongoing process. We all know this is a ever-changing set of events, and we'll adjust as we need to. But I know all the town managers, Darren, our county manager, Jen with the health department, our emergency management folks, they have been burning the candle at both ends, just staying on top of what's going on and making sure that we're doing what's right for Watauga County.
Yeah. So as Watauga looks to reopen, I would imagine they're coordinating with some of the surrounding counties so that we can kind of operate as a region, so to speak, as the high country. Is that so? And if so, how is that coordination happening?
The interesting thing about our counties is, we're very different. We have a large university in our town. Avery County does not. They have a small private college. So some items that you see in one county may not translate well to another county, but with the knowledge that there's a lot of travel across county lines among Avery, Ashe, Watauga, Wilkes, Caldwell, and even Tennessee. Tennessee is next door and they're fully open as a state. So we've got to take those into consideration as well. So there's a lot of conversations across county lines among the managers, and the good thing for us is that we're in a region with Ashe and Allegheny, we share a health department. So Jen Green is also the health director for Ashe County and is also the health director for Allegheny County. So a lot of conversation going on across county lines, and especially now that Wilkes County is seeing this flare up of positive cases due to the Tyson food processing plant. It's imperative that we stay in touch with our neighbors.
Big question, of course, is how this is affecting our budgets as a county. I'm sure it's having massive impact and will for the foreseeable future. Can you give us any insight into what that looks like and how that might play out?
Yeah, so our county manager also in today's meeting presented his recommended budget. So without knowing the full impact of this pandemic on tourism, sales tax, and whatnot, the overall revenues of the county, his recommended budget is down $7 million from last year. So he's recommending a $68 million budget for this year. It does not include a tax increase. So I think residents and property owners will be happy to hear that they don't have to worry about a tax increase during this time of uncertainty. But it's for the county and even the towns, it's very hard to predict what the actual impact will be financially. So we're taking a pretty aggressive look at cutting about $7 million of our budget down to $68 million. Now, at the same time, we have a lot of needs within our county. So we're prioritizing education and public safety and public health in this budget, while also trying to find a lot of savings and around the $7 million mark.
Gotcha.
There is a lot of support for local governments, knowing that we're the actual front lines of this pandemic. And I think one thing that we found in Watauga County is that we're behind the times in broadband service. And so hopefully the state will take a look at that and expand broadband throughout the state, not only for the businesses who are stuck at home working, but also for the kids who are at home trying to learn as well. Mm-hmm. So during this pandemic, we've seen some gaps in services and that are provided by county and the state that are hopefully serving as guideposts for further legislation.
Yeah. Well, it seems like a bit of a tough road to hoe ahead. In closing, do you have any positive thoughts on how we're going to pull out of this?
To see the community come together, what you guys are doing, what the chamber's doing. There's some groups out in Blowing Rock that are looking out for small businesses. I think the mindset of everybody in Watauga County is to look out for others, especially in times of need. And there's a lot of people who are in need right now, a lot of business owners, a lot of restaurant owners, and folks who have just lost their jobs. So I think we need to be conscious in knowing that, hey, we may be okay personally or as family, but there's a lot of people out there who are hurting. And, today is Takeout Tuesday. I'll give a plug for you guys. Go out, help local restaurants, buy a gift card at a local retail owner's establishment, and just realize that we're all in this together, whether we're getting through fine or whether we're not. It's really great to see all these people coming together and pulling through this in one direction.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good stuff. Thanks again for your time, John.